Today, I'm going to be asking people, our light-skinned girls overrated and our black girls underrated, fam. Obviously, guys,
there's a conversation going on at the moment about the role race plays when it comes to love and romance in the black community.
Sometimes they say it's easier to date a white woman.
And it's not true.
But you can get some crazy white girls too.
I would never date a white woman. I just would not do it. Like, there's so much history. I would rather be in like of a black woman than in love of a white woman. That comes from my heart.
This is Backchat London.
White guys treat black women better than black men treat black women.
Beyonce's dad made headlines on the subject recently.
The thing that's made a big impact now is the word colorism. And it appears that the darker shade of color that you are is always treated differently.
He's referring to shades of black and says his mother had a great influence.
She never wanted me to bring home or date someone that was dark complexion.
I got melanin.
Well, I'm certainly aware of this too. I've been told far too many times I don't date black women. In fact, in the past, I was told by a black man he was looking for a white wife to help him progress in society.
A royal engagement is announced. Prince Harry is to marry his American girlfriend, Meghan Markle.
It was a very interesting phrase you said, the acceptable face of a woman of colour. So you think if she had self-identified as black or she was black...
Yeah, I think if she was darker skinned, it would be very unlikely that she would be marrying Prince Harry. I think that's true.
OK, this is really uncomfortable territory, but if Harry, let's
Ms.
say...
Markle has African-American and white heritage. She's been called the acceptable face of black. Well, why is there such scrutiny about the shade of her skin? And does having dark black skin put you at more of a disadvantage when it comes to finding love?
He said to me, like, oh, I want to be friends because I never met a black woman like you before. And
During this programme, I'll be delving into the changing relationships between black men and women.
So give us a break. I don't want to nag anymore. So you
love what you're saying.
You will hear frank and open discussion out in the community, starting with a group of professional women I brought together.
Yeah, so I want to
TV producer Natalie, poet Natural Right, podcaster Lorraine, aka Lala, journalist Cuba Sham Baptiste. We also hear from Ronke, who works in PR, Sabrina, a singer, Rachel, who works in fashion. But let's start with Amina.
Mina first? Yeah, so I was just going to say, so I think there definitely is a preference, and the preference has been long-standing for women who are black but of lighter complexion. If you just think, speak specifically about my generation, and they've not been exposed to images in the media of beautiful black women. You know, the images that they are exposed to of what is beautiful is a very European, a very Caucasian aesthetic, right? Mm-hmm. The dark-skinned black woman is a polar opposite of that. Whereas the light-skinned black woman, you know, is closer to that, you know?
And then I've had experiences where I do get a lot of attention, and I get black guys coming up to me that will say, well, I don't really date black girls, but you're all right. And I find that so offensive.
Why? What's the explanation?
They'll say, oh, you're pretty for a dark skin girl.
Yeah.
And that really gets on my nerve. I don't like that. No.
You shouldn't. It's not a compliment.
What do these women see as the other barriers preventing them from finding love?
So if I'm thinking about one of my biggest hurdles, I think it's being too strong and being too self-assured. When you're confident and you're independent and you can do things for yourself and you're kind of in your stride, sometimes guys find it too powerful and it's intimidating to a lot of men. But then on the other side of it, it's like, even though you're strong, you're still a woman. You want love, you want to be nurtured, you want to be looked after, but it's finding that balance of someone can actually manage me and my character.
Listening to all of you speak, I was thinking, well, we're sitting here, we're talking about men, and we're naturally talking about black men. If you had black men all in a room talking about healthy relationships and being single and so forth, they'd be talking about a whole plethora of women. from different races and different backgrounds, you know, but we've already narrowed in on black men. We have been, I would say that black women are conditioned over time to seek relationships with black men, and that is a hurdle that we face, actually. The fact that we're not open enough to other races. I would say generally we're not open enough to other races. So, you know, we limit ourselves in a way. That's what I was just thinking.
I saw some clapping happening over there. We'll come back to the clapping in a minute. But let me ask you, in terms of the limiting thing, I think that's really interesting. Have you always, for example, consciously decided that you want to date black men, or has anyone dated outside of their race?
Yeah, I haven't dated outside of my race, and I think it goes back to what you were saying as well about, you know, us black women being conditioned to kind of only date within your race, and you kind of grow up with this kind of, you know, rose-tinted view of how you should kind of be in a relationship. You know, you're black, your man's going to be black, your kids are going to be black, you're just going to live a happy black life, you're going to go off and, you know, do amazing black things and everything like that. And it does, like, and, you know, you do kind of fall into that, and there's not to say, there's nothing, you know, not to say there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, if that's what you want, then that's fine. But it does actually limit you as well, given the fact that, you know, we're kind of like the only group that kind of thinks like that, where everybody else is quite free to just go out there and date who we want. And I think, like, for centuries, you know, I feel like black women, we're very protective of us as a race. I feel like we're more protective than, I would say, black men. I think there are more black women now who are slowly kind of coming out of that mindset and kind of dating outside of their race. So yeah, it is slowly changing, but obviously it's going to take a while to kind of change something that's been ingrained in us for centuries, you know.
My skin is black. My arms are long. My hair is woolly. My back is strong. Strong enough to take the pain. Inflicted again and again.
I always think that we have to really dismantle the image of the strong black woman. There's nothing wrong with being strong, but I think what we need to do is to re-evaluate what does it mean to be strong, and somewhere within that definition it has to include vulnerability.
Dawn Estefan is a psychotherapist who runs a group for black women. She believes that historical factors influence what we see happening today.
A topic that I'm particularly interested in is the concept of post-traumatic slave syndrome, which is akin to PTSD. And what we're looking at is hundreds and hundreds of years of trauma without a healing space. And one of those things that comes from that very place is the concept of shadism, in terms of whiter meaning survival, whiter meaning safety, whiter meaning better, actually more privilege, working in the house as opposed to working outside in the fields. And one of the things that I'm really quite impressed with of having this subject to even speak about, because what you're doing is that you're uncovering the secret. And when we have all these things that are happening, and how ill it makes us as a people in terms of being able to value our blackness and to be able to embrace our blackness and to love it. It's created a lot of things that we now perceive to be just culture, the shape of a nose, the shade of a skin, the curl of hair. You know, these are not actually things that are part of who we are. These are things that were pushed into us and now have become very much part of our psyche.
What do you want from me?
Nothing. I can't stand more than a catfish.
A new film called No Shade is about to be released, exploring colorism and what happens when black women look for love.
Growing up, I always assumed that a black man should either find someone white or light.
The director of the film, Clare, Anyiam-Osigwe, decided to explore this topic as a result of what women were telling her during her clinics working as a dermatologist.
Last year, I was doing quite a few trade shows up and down the country, and I have a treatment room at Harley Street. And it just became a surge of women coming to visit me to talk about lightening their skin. And when I looked deeper into what that was about, they said that they were finding it difficult to date black men
and that they felt that there was this acceptable shade of beauty that they wanted to achieve.
What did you do to really make sure that this wasn't just a couple of women's stories, this was actually something that was going on in the community?
I was being sent YouTube videos of young boys, actually 15 to 21, interviewing other young boys saying, who do you fancy? Do you fancy dark-skinned girls or do you fancy light-skinned girls? And they're like, ugh, dark-skinned girls, disgusting. And I think out of the 30 young men that were interviewed, one of them said that he doesn't see the difference. And then there was another video going around asking people about whether they felt that they had privilege because they were a fairer skin shade of black. And a few of the people had said in that video that, yeah, I do feel that perhaps I am kind of treated better at work. I reject that idea, but I do understand that having fairer skin does give me certain privileges and does seem to make white people feel comfortable in my presence.
And from your own experience?
During this process, just last week, I was told by another black woman that I am not dark enough to have an opinion on colorism. And so
I see you as a beautiful dark skin, brown skin, however you want to describe it. Sure. I mean, now there's a different shade of dark. That's extraordinary.
Wow, isn't it? And this was in the same breath of saying that, she was saying that she doesn't see colour. To tell me that I am too light to have an opinion, like you just said, there is depth to this. What's going to happen when we're in a position where we are policing blackness, and who has the right to claim it, who is desirable because of it.
Look at that black girl, look at that black girl, look at that black girl.
So I think it's about time we put some of this to some black men.
I think I would like black women to listen more to their black men and try and understand them.
Talking to one of my close friends, his mother always took out her anger for his father on him. So he said like he dates only white women.
I brought together a small group, actors from No Shade, Kadeem and Justin, fitness instructor H and entrepreneur Ofalabi. Well, what do they think? Are black men out of love with black women?
I would say no, but then I understand why people will say yes. When I was growing up, every cartoon, every film, every series, there were not many black female leads. So I think there is that scenario that is very difficult for us to subconsciously just snap back and be like, oh, yeah, there's somebody here who's actually attractive and looks like me. I think that's where the issue is.
I do think it depends on your upbringing as well. So I'd always, loved my mother and adored my mother. So I wouldn't have a problem finding a woman that looked exactly like my mother. Whereas talking to one of my close friends, his mother always took out her anger for his father on him. So he said like he dates only white women because he hates any relation to his mother, but seeing that in another black woman.
I think it's such a complicated question idea because I think there's many variables. And also on the flip side, what I would say is that I think it's always been popularized that being black is cool, sexy, it's awesome, whatever. You get white girls who are more kind of attracted to you because of the fact that you're black and you're cool and you're so solid, you know what I'm saying, or something like that. And then it makes it difficult because you're growing up, you're like, wow, like I didn't have to do anything to be in this situation now with this girl, right? So there's been a lot of black men don't like black women, etc. But actually, when you look at it, you kind of have to see what they've been subjected to as well.
So what you're saying that black men are in vogue. People want to be with a black man.
Like I've heard like white girls say, "Oh, I want a black baby because of Kim Kardashian." I've also seen people that say, "Oh, I want a white girl like Kim Kardashian because of Kanye." So it really depends on why you've chosen to go with the person you've gone with, because of love, because you like the person. The way they look, because they are different to you as well. Sometimes it could just be that the difference excites you.
It's funny because I heard from a guy who knew that his comments would be controversial, so, didn't want to put himself on the radio, but he said to me, I am looking for a white woman because I know that my children will be lighter and they will do better in society than if I was with a black woman.
I kind of get what he's saying, and it's really sad that I get what he's saying because it's kind of hurtful but at the same time, I understand. And I think that's part of the problem.
Within the last 10 years, some research put together by the Equality and Human Rights Commission indicated that as many as 48% of black Caribbean men are in mixed-race relationships. The same is true for 1 in 5 black African men. But why is the black female perspective so different?
I'm the second oldest of 11. I've got 6 brothers and 4 sisters, and I grew up in like Harrow, so it's not as very mixed. So most of my brothers do have white women, and I love them, and I get along with them. But it's like the majority don't look at me. And I've got one friend. I say he's my brother. He's never really dated a black woman, and I used to always wonder why. What is it? But he would say things like he would say it's because of me, because I'm so loud. But it's like, sometimes they say it's easier to date a white woman,
And it's not true.
But you get some crazy white girls too.
Some crazy. It's not.
If it doesn't make sense, it's not true.
It's not true.
Let me bring in Natalie here, because you've just done a high five. It's something I feel quite strongly about. We've just done a high five here with Ronke. Explain why.
The reason why it's what did we say? It was that it's easy. It's not true that it's easier, because you will find that when a black woman is with a black man, she just deals with it. Okay, so she's gonna pay for stuff, right? Whether he's there or not, she will deal with her kids. She will pick up the kids. She will take them. She will work the 3 jobs. She's got to work the 3 jobs. When that's what I mean. But when a white woman is dating a black man, she's not gonna let him get away with that nonsense. She will make sure that he pays, right? She makes sure that he turns up. She's going to put a pressure on him that a black woman will never put on you. A black woman will just go off and do what she's got to do. And then somehow
they're easier to deal with.
But it doesn't come back the other way.
So if that's true, why aren't black women demanding the same thing?
Because we don't think that we can even get it.
We're taught to like unconditionally support black men no matter what they do. They're like, oh my gosh, my king, everything, like putting them for them.
Oh, my mum would do this for me. If you happen to be from the same country, help you. Oh, my mum would make the jollof rice, then you'll be doing the jollof rice, you'll be doing the stew. Because you understand, because you were always brought up to be the mother, to be the protector. So if you have your black man, that's what you want to do. You want him to feel at home. You want him to feel comfortable.
That melanin.
Dating a black woman. Very headstrong people.
H is a personal trainer. He was keen to add his weight to the conversation.
Most of them know who they are in terms of authority and power. Yeah, they're quite dominating. To myself, I find that black women are the best in terms of all-round grounded, being able to cook, clean. You know, they want to know what's what. Do you know what I mean? And basically, I feel that, you know, if a woman is open to telling and making herself known, I think it works well with men, really.
What do you think about the fact that we're seeing a lot of black guys deciding actually they would rather date everyone else but a black woman?
Well, for them guys, I feel like they've had bad experiences with black women. But again, I think it goes down to understanding the woman and who the woman is. Some guys are very weak, and when they come across a very strong black woman, they get scared. And they feel like, you know what, I don't even want to put up with this.
Male ego, you know, when they do find a powerful black woman, sometimes it can shrink their ego. So in a sense, they'll distance themselves from having to deal with that reality. So I do definitely agree. But I'd also say that there are some men out there as well that will have the darker skinned woman who can cook, who can clean, who can do all of the household chores that they may have seen their mother do, but will cheat with a girl that can't cook, clean, because she looks like the trophy girl. So, you know, they may be in their circle of friends and, you know, bring the darker skinned girl to the party and they're like, oh, right, your girlfriend's dark, man. And feel embarrassed. And I think that that's another issue as well. What is beautiful? And I think now you're seeing a lot of, you know, black women becoming the topic of, yes, she's finally beautiful. for instance, with the Black Panthers coming out and the Lupita Nyong'os, whereas previously, I don't remember friends ever saying or lifting up or praising darker-skinned black women. It's always been a thing where, you know, I hide her, I love her in the house, you know, good sex, good home life, but when I'm on the street, I'd rather have the token girl that everybody's going to pat me on the back for and say, oh yeah, you're doing well in life, when I'm actually living a double life.
My first ever boyfriend was white, but when I look back at my experience of being in a relationship with him and my experience of being in a relationship with black men, I feel as if actually he really cherished being with me, you know?
I was waiting for you.
Yeah. No, but when I look back, and it was actually more me that was conscious of the fact that I was dating outside of my race and what would people think.
You felt guilty
because of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I love that you said that. Yeah, because when I was young, I was 19, and I saw this man, and we started dating, and I found that I was like, why am I enjoying this so much? Because he was enjoying who I was. He enjoyed me, so he was showing me things no black man ever showed me. No black man ever loved me in the way that he did. He like embraced all. He taught me lots, to the point where I had a baby with him. I didn't feel any restrictions in love. But I did question my stuff. I did think, well, I'm not really gonna be considered a black woman like her, so I'm gonna take this step and he just embraced my everything, just all the time. No black man's ever done that, and I resented black men for that actually, because it's taken a white man to love me in this way, because I didn't know about this kind of love, for me to procreate, and I'm still not sure why you don't embrace me, and I'm still quite angry about that actually, to the point where I say I want a black baby now, because I feel like I need to prove that I'm giving to my own, because my own wasn't given to me back then. So yeah, I don't want to get a thing about it. No, but it's true. I'm angry about it because no, I'm a bit angry. How dare you? So yeah, the white man loved me more. It felt at that time. I'm still working through that.
Still a challenge, because you asked for pros and negatives. I would say so. That was when I was younger. Looking now, and I have dated white men, black men since. The challenge of dating a white man in this day and age is him not being aware of his privilege. So that really makes it challenging at times. So not being aware of the kind of luxuries and the things that you're afforded, that comes with the fact that you're a white male.
Because I date someone outside my race and they say something out of pocket, it's going down. Do you see what I'm saying? That I have to, again, being aware, understanding that not only am I a woman, but I'm also black.
I think it comes down to them not understanding the things that we go through, i.e. racism. They don't understand that maybe.
My name is Sweet Thing. My name is Sweet Thing.
One of the women in the group, Cuba Sham Baptiste, penned a blog for the women's network Black Ballad about her experiences of dating online. It's a platform where anonymity allows some truly shocking attitudes to surface.
If I do get messages from white guys or from non-black guys, generally there's some element of fetishization going on. So, hello, my beautiful black queen. Or, I don't know, oh, I've heard that black girls are freaks in bed. Are you one of them? Or something like that. That's a very common thing that I've gotten.
I mean, it seems extraordinary if you're trying to woo a woman or get to know a woman, that would be your first kind of chat-up line.
Yeah, it's like, it's not a good idea. And I think a lot of guys kind of just shoot their shot at as many women as possible on these apps and don't really think about the consequences.
One of the ones that was most shocking to me was, I've never had sex with a monkey before.
Laura Thompson from the Department of Sociology at City University of London can cite many more examples. She's documenting the experiences of ethnic minority women online.
they've all had experiences of sexism and really crude messages and very sexualized messages and all these unwanted things. But what I've been hearing from the Black and ethnic minority women that I've spoken to is kind of an extra layer on top of that. I suppose we could call it racialized sexism, finding that they're being very fetishized, you know, people saying, oh, I've never had sex with a black woman, things like, oh, look, you're so exotic, all the way to black girls ride better, very, very explicit sexual things.
Is there any sense of how common this is? Your research is limited, so there might be, you know, some who'd say actually maybe this is, you know, this is quite a minority thing. This isn't happening for a lot of women. What would you say to that?
I would say that it's definitely happening to too many women, because whenever I present or talk about my research, I always get people coming up to me and telling me what they've experienced, and black women coming up and saying, oh, I always get called, you know, you look like chocolate, or, you know, some reference to chocolate. And if that kind of happens wherever I go and speak, I think it's safe to say that it's happening too much. We don't have the specifics, we don't have the numbers, but it does seem like most people have a story to tell.
Well, the conversations are certainly very raw at the moment and the answers unclear. But I found that black women are finally opening up about their feelings when it comes to love, romance and race. Finally finding a voice.
Black men, they're not supportive to black women. Right. So they will slate black women in front of other races as well. Which gives everybody else a license to slate black women. So it's like there's no solidarity. It's like black women are on an island all by themselves.
What if I said to you that actually you sound like a room full of angry black women whinging about black men? Why don't you just do something about it?
We're dating men outside the race.
Yeah.
I still love my brothers.
Yeah.
But we now need to stop caring as well. Yeah. Like, travel and enjoy. There's so much sweetness, fruit you can be plucking across Africa. You know what I mean? You can go out, Caribbean, even Asia, South America. I've done this in guys in South America. Do enjoy. Like, I don't understand why we care anymore.
Right, when I went to India, I just came back from India. When I went to India, they loved me die. When I'm telling you. Because I wasn't sure, because I was thinking, oh, you know, they have this whole caste thing, and because I'm dark. No, really? They loved me.
Where were you?
I was in New Delhi, right? So we all need to go. Let's all go.